Hi everyone, welcome to another Reasons and Resources. So in this episode we're taking a look at PureScript. So this is another interesting language in as much as, apart from me putting together resources about what I wanted to talk about, that's my exposure to the language. So I suppose you could say it's another one that possibly is on my bucket list, but it's fairly far down. And so far, as we've gone through the episode, because we've tended to start off with languages that tend to be a little bit more familiar to everybody, these earlier ones that I went through in the series, I have some familiarity with, but as we've got further down the tree, particularly with, I think it was K was one, I had zero exposure to that, and PureScript is another one where I have zero exposure. And I suspect as we get further along here, apart from one or two ones here where I have some previous exposure to, like Basic or Fourth, or some of these ones where I've already got content for, we'll find that's going to be probably more the case. So it's an interesting journey and more things to add to my bucket list. So let's just start off with some reasons, and all of these reasons are going to be obviously stuff that I've just read in the very very contemporaneous about the language, basically at the point at which I was looking for content. So I'm going to include, as always, Wikipedia articles, and we'll look through the usual sort of set of filters that I tend to filter this series through. But straight away, probably what's going to bounce out at you is, if you're after a strongly typed system, then yes, PureScript is strongly typed. So sometimes if how a system is typed in terms of strongly typed, statically typed, that's sometimes a reason for exploring a language if languages you've been working in so far don't have that, and that's something that you want to look at and to work out what am I going to benefit from by looking at that. The other thing is, and I've mentioned this before, with a number of languages that fall into this category of purely something. This is a purely, and the something is functional programming language, and I find that those languages are particularly useful if you're having trouble mastering the underlying philosophy of that language. I think we all, I certainly do, and I think a lot of people have this tendency when they're working in a multi-paradigm language, and maybe they want to sort of say, I'm working in Python, but I'd like to experiment with the functional side of things, or write more functionally. Even then, there is a tendency to sort of lean into maybe stuff that you already know. Whereas when you've got a language that is purely of a particular paradigm, there's no sort of safe corner of it, of familiarity. Like there's no comfort blanket. So you've got to go all in with that particular paradigm. And this being a purely functional paradigm, that might be a possible reason why you would want to explore it. Now, of course, there are other purely functional programming languages you might want to explore, but this is one. The other thing, and I don't know how much this has come up actually so far, but this concept of transpiling, interesting rabbit hole to go down if you're not really familiar with transpiling, or you may be not aware of some transpiling that might go on under the hood. But interesting to see a language where there's a list of language here that can transpile into JavaScript, C++, 11, Erlang, and Go. And so so again, something else to sort of play around with. And of course, as a result of that, you might find there's some interesting interoperability features that you can lean into. And I know some people, one reason why they might pick a particular language is because of interoperability. Having trouble with that word. And that might be for various reasons. One might be because of a transpiling reason. Another reason might be because of the underlying language that's been used to create the language. And a third reason could possibly be the virtual machine it's running in. So, if you're running on, say, a Java virtual machine, or say on the Beam, in the case of languages like Erlang and Elixir and Gleam, then you might find that you get additional interoperability that allows you to leverage libraries in those other languages. And another interesting thing, and I think that anybody that's stepped into the world of purely functional programming is with teamed up with strong typing. I'm trying to think of a language that isn't purely functional, whether those don't go hand in hand, but I'm sure there's some. I couldn't count through them in my head. But with this, you've got pure functional, strong typing. So it's quite interesting when you're in that mind space to sort of experience predictability, maintainability as I don't know if side effect's the right word here, but yeah, it's like having this strong guardian that's guiding you towards robust solutions, which is really interesting when you start working in languages like that. So that's some reasons, and I'll include links and further down links, whatever you want to call these, deeper links within the article, just for convenience. In the description there's some example what the layout of the language it looks like. So I'm sure there's people like me out there that are really interested in the shapes in languages and the patterns, which fascinates me, and I find that is a great way to become familiar with languages, is to look for sort of reoccurring patterns around the sort of features of the language, like what the if statements look like, what the case statements, if there are any, look like, what does recursion look like, what do loops look like, what does the input output, is there a sort of standard layout that's easy to spot? Are there any things in the language you maybe don't see in languages you've looked at so far? Is there an interesting order in which the way it processes from left to right or right to left, or all those different ways in which information can be passed through the language? So yeah, and then we've got some few C alsos there. So let's just see. I'm not quite sure whether I've seen PureScript come up on the Stack Overflow. We're still looking at, to start with, the 2024 results, because they've still got the old style, the one I always used to look like, which is to inform. I always like seeing what was coming to the top, because these tended to be a good indicator of like what was bubbling under, sort of under the radar stuff that might come to the surface, which is the top paying one. But let's just start off with most popular. I doubt if it's theirs. Don't get this muddled up with TypeScript. This is PureScript, and I'm sure I saw it on one of these lists on several occasions, but probably not this one. It doesn't leap out at me anywhere there. And I don't think it'll probably be anywhere on here. There's Crystal. Don't think I see it. Okay. So not going to win any popularity contests at the moment, I don't think. And of course, as you explore this language, you'll start to uncover, who's using it where, is there any particular part of the world it's maybe used more than others, or any particular application that it's used for. And even on here, yeah, shell. So this is the top paying from 2024. Don't see it. Okay, I didn't think I would, but there you go. It's always worth checking. I'll include a link to the 2025 developer survey. As I've mentioned before, unfortunately, and I don't see this, I'm always living in hope that, you know, what I suppose I could do is download the raw data and just see if there's a way of determining the bit that's missing, which is 2.4, which what used to be there. But you can see here's our most popular technologies. And don't see it there, I don't think. No, there's TypeScript again, but it's not the same thing. It's admired and desired. My old favourite chart. And then what do we get? Oh, this one, yeah. Nope. Anyway, moving on. So let's look at some resources. Okay, so we have the main website, PureScript.org. So, you know, always a good place to start, obviously. So lots of useful stuff here. We've got quick start guide, all the sort of useful things to get it set up. So it looks like, oh yeah, you can do installation via npm there. So that's cool. So yeah, we need Node to do this. Okay, good to know. We've got PureScript by example. There we go. So another useful online resource. So one of these, I suppose, like online books. I love this sort of thing now. Isn't it great? You can just go on and learn a language without having to, if you don't want to. And as much as I like physical programming books, yeah, you can just do it all online. Yeah. We've got this Jordan's reference, another learning resource. Look at this. Knock yourself out there. The PureScript documentation on GitHub. And yeah, the PureScript book is PureScript by example. So that loops around on itself. Functional program made easier. Cool. Which is an ebook. PureScript cookbook. And then we have Pursuit. This is a searchable database and API documentation hub. So great. It's, you know, I don't know if, like me, some languages, you know, I have real problems like navigating the packages. So stuff like this is like super useful if you're trying to sort of locate a particular package that you need to expose, you know, your program to, or import, or however you want to think about it. Yeah. And then a nice handy dandy online, you know, in this case try PureScript website, online playground, online sandpit, however you want to think about it. Yeah, I love these sort of things because this is a great way of playing with the core concepts without having to actually install it on your machine. And you can go quite far with these now. Obviously, you'll find that a lot of this stuff generally and I don't know about this one specifically, but a lot of these ones generally, of course, you're going to be restricted by what libraries might be exposed for various reasons, either for just cost reasons or just security reasons. But yeah, great way to start, and just check out the standard structures. Got a number of videos you might want to watch. There's this Phil Freeman website. Okay, and of course, these ones I'm going through are going to be there because of connections with the language, or people that are sort of recognised as being sort of people that either part of the community or are known to sort of talk about this particular language. So you can see designed by Phil Freeman. So we've got this one here, but yeah, some other very interesting like tour of PureScript stuff as well that hopefully you find interesting. PureScript is on Exorcism, if you like to use this website. As I've said before multiple times, I always find this really interesting because you can play around across multiple languages with the same sort of exercises. So this is a fun one to try. Like what does a pangram solution look like in PureScript? So a lot of these, there's some things that are specific, leaning to the language. Other things, they are the usual suspects. So things like, where are we? Pascal's triangle, anagrams. What's the other one in here? Hamming is another one I've seen crop up quite a bit, to do with DNA strands, that sort of things. Those sort of things. Oh yeah, RNA transcription as well. Yeah. And Bob, the lackadaisical teenager one as well. So yeah, it's fun to sort of jump across the streams. Learn X in Y minutes. It's a nice place to go if you just want to really sort of dive straight in and try some code out in terms of getting suggestions for things to try. So yeah, and it also has very useful links as well for starting out. Yeah, this is something you do have to be a bit mindful of, and I've had a few problems, is when you're pasting stuff into a REPL, just make sure you understand how that is going to manifest itself, because sometimes it doesn't go quite according to plan. So just be careful of that. Yeah, just general advice, not particularly for this language, but any language where you're using a REPL and you're pasting code into the REPL, it doesn't always respond quite as pasting a code and running it in, say, I don't know, Visual Studio Code with the correct interpreter installed. Just basically a lot to do with how it handles the individual lines and things like that. Some are better than others. I had some fun and games the other day when I was playing around in a language, and I just wanted to test some stuff on a REPL, and yeah, things fell off pretty fast. So yeah, the wheels fell off pretty fast. So yeah, you're out of luck if you're looking for any information on my programming polyglot project for this particular language. Yeah, not done. I think the next one, so we'll be talking about Idris in the next episode. I do have C++ stuff in there, and then we get like Gap, Erlang, Elixir, Gleam, C#. So yeah. Anyway, thanks once again for watching. Bye for now, and I will catch you in a future episode.